Rutgers with a big last second literally win 27-24 over the Purdue Boilermakers. Guys, I told you this was the start to the season. This was the real start to the new season. Oregon was a throwaway and it was a dumpster fire before this game. Rutgers does do what I told them they had to do, winning 27-24. It was a bit painstaking, and we'll get into some of the things and observations from the game and what we saw, what we didn't see, what we're left with, what going forward. But for now, Jay Patel, embattled kid. I loved him when he got here. I thought he had a pretty good start just by what I thought he could do. Had some nice kicks for us, and then just inconsistency this year. And much maligned in some ways, just a rough go of it, on and off, inconsistent, blocked a little bit. And I love the fact that Jay Patel got out there with the confidence that has never wavered with the young man. He goes out there, he kicks that game winner, no doubt about it, right through the uprights. Good for Jay Patel. It's great to see him win a game that way, and put the game on his leg and win it. And that last sequence when we handed off to Benjamin twice, he was running really well. And the second run where he puts it right in the middle of the field, I know they positioned themselves to get Jay the kick he wanted from the angle and the distance that would have been more advantageous. But there was still a timeout and time on the clock. I mean, I would have kind of wanted to take a shot and make sure the game was sealed. But Greg didn't want to do that. You can look at that one of two ways. Of course, since it went the right way, you give him the benefit of the doubt. He was probably being risk averse there. You throw the ball, you get a sack, or there's an interception and you get second guessed because you were too risky, taking too many chances, trying to win it all right there, and you wind up going into overtime. Whereas on the other hand, Jay has been inconsistent, and it wasn't necessarily a chip shot. And it's hard to say that anything's a chip shot, not just because of Jay, but because of our protection and snapping and all the things that go into special teams and kicks this year. But Greg, the positive way to look at it is not that he was risk averse and should have taken a chance or didn't calculate how dicey our kicking team could be. The fact is he had faith in Jay Patel, knew he could make the kick, instilled confidence in Patel himself by giving him the nod, instilled confidence in the team and the unit themselves by giving them the nod. And there was no doubt about it. He had the ball. He was going to let the clock go all the way down. He believed in his kicker. He believed in his field goal unit, and he took the ball down, called the timeout with just enough time left to kick the ball and end the game. And he was right. However you slice it, you feel good for Jay Patel there. That's good. How about the play just a few snaps before that? How about that? Where our defense, much maligned, as everybody knows, our defense, there were times in this game where the complementary football was not being played up to standard, and I'll talk about it a little bit. And there were times in this game where it looked like the defense was just going to continue to struggle and that they wouldn't be able to give us a stop. But throughout that second half, you got to hand it a little bit to the offense there and to the defense. We didn't have one of those ridiculous third quarter slumps where the game just got away from us. And there were times late in that game where Purdue could have put a lot more daylight between us and them, and the defense was able to get some stops and force some punts. And so on that last offensive sequence for Purdue, Jordan Walker, who did I think and hope that he would come on even stronger this year? Yes. Was it to be expected? Not necessarily on paper, but given what we saw from him last year, you'd hope that he would come on a little more, but comes up big there, runs into the frame, jumps up, and is able to knock the ball down out of the air from Brown when he tried to throw the ball. Brown, instead of knocking the ball down, catches the ball. And Farrell Nago, another Montreal. How about Montreal? Antoine Raymond, Nago, these Montreal guys making noise for Rutgers. Sophomore comes in number 90. He was close. He had his hands up too. If Walker didn't knock that ball down, he was going to knock it down. He stays up. He sticks with the play. He gets in there and helps knock that ball out. And the defense, what have I been talking about? X factors, turnovers, sparks, the things you expect and need from a Schiano team. We see some sparks in the most pivotal time in the game, and the batting that ball up, then knocking that ball out, sticking with the play. Could have settled for a sack and would have been happy, but you knock the ball out, you recover the ball, and then this team is able to finish it off and win a much needed win. Some of the things, the second to last drive, I didn't love all the run calls leading up to it, which forced us into a 3rd and goal, which was 3rd and long, where you really had to go all in and pass. You couldn't run it and try to get closer. They didn't work. And you had to kick. You couldn't go for it on 4th. It would just be silly at that point. Again, I wasn't loving that. We were moving the ball through the air. Going through the air seemed to be our bread and butter this game, as it probably should have been all season. And look, Antoine Raymond is extremely talented. He found holes, and he moved the ball, and he ran the ball too. But just some of those times when the pass was clicking and they were having trouble stopping it, I say, go, get in, throw it into the end zone, get ahead. But instead, they settled for the field goal. Didn't love that. Didn't love leaving the 3 points on the board earlier in the game. If you think about it, the game was tied. We could have been up already in that game had we just taken the 3 points, assuming we make the field goal, which I understand you can't assume, but with this team. But had you kicked the field goal earlier in the game instead of getting real aggressive and coming away with 0 points, which we've unfortunately seen too much from this team this year, you might not even be in that position. So didn't love that. Also, you hate to see the injury. I'm so sick and tired. If I see one more starting lineman get rolled up on, I hate the phrase. I hate the term. He got rolled up on. Oh, you hate to see rolled. I know it's just a part of the game. I know there's no way to stop it. I know it's accidental, but I can't stand these poor guys getting rolled up on. Now, Taj White, now he's probably done for the year based on his leg and the limp. We've seen that limp so many times. And how about Shady Salam? Al-Shadi Salam comes back from injury, a guy who gave us memories by winning that game against Boston College. His freshman year when he was a running back, came in, East Orange kid, came in with a lot of fanfare, a lot of athletic talent, moves from running back to the secondary, sticks with the team all years in college, comes back. I thought, look, he's a converted running back, and we're struggling in the secondary, but, he's somebody who gives us something there. And so to lose him to another injury, it just kind of breaks your heart for the kid, and it's just frustrating to see. In a season with all this strife already, seeing those 2 injuries, which look to be probably, I don't have the medical evidence. I haven't heard from the team. Don't get it twisted. But, based on things we're used to seeing, probably season ending, it's just frustrating to see. There were times where, look, there was just too much pressure on Ethan Kaliakmanis. Just too much pressure on him. Some drops, DT Sheffield with a drop. I understand the ball didn't quite come down where he was anticipating. He had to shift his body a little bit, but you still can't drop that ball. Ethan, way too much pressure on Ethan today. Just, the offensive line and the offense in general, for all the fanfare they've gotten. And I've been talking about this. I talked about this with Steve Tishner. I talked about it on the TKR. I talked about it here. I talk about it, in private, in public. I mean, this vaunted offense, the offense we think is going to be the way we win games. There was times in this game where they struggled, and whether you're talking about protection, pass protection, whether you're talking about play calling, whether you're talking about drops, whether you're talking about missed throws, we're still not where I want us to be on offense all the time, just to be honest with you. But it is what it is. Rutgers finishes, though, very, very respectable, to say the least. 531 total yards, 359 yards through the air, 172 yards on the ground. That completely dwarfs Purdue, 128 yards through the air, 217 running the ball. We had 22 first downs to Purdue's 14. Only 4 of 14 on third down efficiency, but Purdue was even worse at 1 of 9, which, again, the defense was able to get off the field sometimes. I mean, they were. And you got to give credit where credit's due. The defense was not stellar, was not even good, but was able to get off the field when they needed to and was able to give us a pivotal play at the end. Fourth down efficiency, we were 3 of 4. They were 2 of 2. A lot of the fourth and short calls in certain situations, I'm not opposed to, especially given the way Raymond is now running. We're starting to find our footing the way we did with Kyle, where you can kind of almost expect it as a given in those situations. And you love to see that. We allowed 5 sacks. Back to my point, though, about the protection. Purdue allows 0 sacks. We still are having trouble closing. Glad we batted the ball and we got the fumble at the end of that game. And I guess that's why that last play doesn't count as a sack. But, because he caught the ball technically instead of paying the passer. I don't know how that works. I guess that he's the receiver and it was a loss in that way instead of being the passer who gets sacked before he could throw it, which I guess makes sense. I mean, you got to delve into some of the minutia of these logical things, right? But we allow 5 sacks against Purdue, just not stellar at all. But we each lose a fumble, no interceptions on either side. Our time of possession absolutely annihilated Purdue, 37 minutes to 22 minutes. And so that was part of the story in the game too. They did what I think a lot of people have been saying they need to do. And that is throw the ball, air the ball out to KJ Duff. KJ Duff is a ridiculous athletic talent. Ian Strong is a complete receiver, a polished guy, and also a freak athlete. But KJ Duff is just a freak of nature. I mean, we've seen him with some great catches already. His wingspan is impressive. You put the ball in his vicinity, he comes down with it so many times. And they finally just, especially in that second half when they needed answers, they needed chunk plays. They needed, they were starting backed up to their own end zone or on the 20. And they had to find a way to not have this methodical drive where they're struggling to even get past midfield. They had to find a way to quickly shift momentum, grab momentum, and run with it on their offensive drives. And I thought that throwing the ball to KJ Duff was awesome, and it paid dividends. KJ Duff, 6 receptions for 241 yards. 241 yards. Do you think maybe that's a recipe you should run with just a little bit? 241 yards. Run with that just a tad. Maybe it'll help you. Just awesome. A touchdown for him. Ben Black got in the action. 4 receptions for 56 yards. Sheffield had 3 for 24. Raymond got involved a little bit, 2 for 18. Weber with 2. Fletcher with 2. I like seeing both tight ends involved. And, how about Weber stepping up? He didn't quite hold his block. There was pressure coming in again on Ethan with that bomb to KJ, the first one. And Ethan steps up and delivers the ball. That's really where the game, I think, started to turn a little bit. Where we started opening it up. Because when you open it up too, and then you saw when they open it up, there was some situations, even in the red zone. Well, now the box isn't stacked. The box is a little bit weak, and now you could run again. And it's not like we don't have a couple maulers on the line. It's not like Raymond can't make things happen, but you got to loosen it up. You got to make guys think twice about what you're going to do. And I thought we did a pretty good job at times in this game doing that, which is what ultimately led to us winning the game, in my humble opinion. Antoine Raymond, 29 carries for 116 yards, a touchdown, averaging 4 yards a carry. What did I say a couple weeks ago when we brought Sam Brown in against Iowa? And I'm saying, look, I love Sam, and I hope Sam comes back and Sam is better than ever. But I don't know why Sam's coming in this point in the season. Where is Benjamin? And now look at Benjamin getting some work. Benjamin eating a little bit. And he gets in there, 8 carries, 78 yards, averaging 9.8 carry. This kid should be involved, should have been involved earlier, and I'm glad he's involved now. You got to get this kid involved. This is a no-brainer. You got talent on this team. KJ Duff, okay, Benjamin. Get these guys involved, and I'm so glad that Deshaun Benjamin got involved today. It worked out great for the team. 8 carries, 78 yards. The kid who was in there at the end of the game, and I'm not knocking anything from Raymond, but the kid, you could trust the kid. And look what he did. Purdue, Brown, 11 of 20 for 117 yards, 1 touchdown. I told you going into this game. Brown, whether it's Brown or whether it was Singleton, neither one were necessarily impressive. Singleton more dangerous with his legs. Brown had games where he was putting up numbers, where he was moving the ball. And you saw at points in this game where he was moving the ball a little bit through the air, but other points, not really. 11 of 20 for 117 is nothing so great. And it worked out for Rutgers. Maccabee on the ground, 16 carries for 91 yards. He had a pretty decent game, got tripped up and banged up a little bit towards the end of that game. I don't know if he came back in. But look, Rutgers goes out on the road, wins an important Big Ten game because it's the only win in conference they have so far this year. This was a game where, look, Purdue needed it for pride and pride alone, because the rest of their schedule is so difficult in conference too. They only have 2 wins overall. They wanted to beat a conference team, especially on homecoming at home. It was, that game was in a vacuum in a way for them and their fan base, in my opinion, where just win this game for this Saturday homecoming so we could just have fun and enjoy it, But for Rutgers, I think this was even more pivotal. And I said this in my game preview. This was even more pivotal for Rutgers, right? Because for Rutgers, you are 3 wins overall. You have some, presumably, and we'll get to this, you have some games left on your schedule that you presumably could still win. So getting that first in conference win gets you to 4 wins, which is only 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. Where you are as a program and the trajectory that you thought you were on compared to where you are, which is really getting disheartening. You needed this win for more than just pride. Pride was important, but also strategically from a season outlook perspective, there were still things on the line for this game. And I think Rutgers needed to go out and win this game. I don't think any excuse would have sufficed. And I early in the game, remember, Rutgers didn't get its first points until all the way through almost the entirety of the first half. And it was nice to see that drive. And there were some calls on that drive that I really didn't like either towards the end. Luckily, it worked out. The running game did what they had to do, and we got down there. And the passing game too was a nice drive overall, but it took a while. And some of the things that happened, and kudos to the defense too. When we went for it on 4th down, we didn't get it. The momentum swings back to the Boilermakers. They drive all the way down the field, and the defense is able to stop them there, force a field goal. So it was 10-0 instead of 14-0, and that's psychologically really important. So kudos to the defense there too. That's why I'm saying you got to look at the complementary football nature of all this. And it's not just always on one side of the ball or the other. The defense stepped up, and look, were they great? No. Have they been great all season? No. But there have been times when the defense has put this team in position to at least win games or keep themselves in, and the other side is messed up. And speaking of that, how about that kickoff return? Immediately following us taking our first lead of the game, the kickoff return gets them to past midfield, and puts us in a bad position. And what happens? Well, Purdue scores. Of course they do. Now, luckily, our offense does what they have to do, get us back down there, kick the field goal, and then, defense steps up again, puts us in position, we convert again. But that special teams coverage on the kickoff right after scoring was the last thing you needed. Didn't love the refs today. Didn't hate them, but didn't love them. And if we had lost, I think I'd hate them even more. I understand the rule with the whatever it is, a 1 to 2 yard cushion for a fair catch. I understand it, but the guy's moving forward. The kick is not where he thinks it's going to be. That's his fault. It's not our fault. He muffs it without being touched. You call the interference. That's a pivotal call. That's a tough call. And then there was a lot of holding going on with our edge rushers and our guys getting in there. A lot of holding that was overlooked while we were getting penalties called on us. Still wasn't the most egregious game I've seen, but didn't love it. Homecoming on the road, Big Ten, legacy team. It happens. And it's you gotta learn to roll with those punches. We did roll with those punches. But yeah, the kickoff return team, again, kind of a head scratcher. But look, Rutgers needed this game. We needed this game for all the reasons I said in my preview, for all the reasons I'm putting forth now. And you could tell, right? Greg Schiano, the way he reacted at the end of that game seemed like ridiculously emotional, maybe even a little over emotional, given what the game was. And, I'm torn on that reaction because Purdue is terrible this year. They haven't won a conference game. They have 2 wins. So I'm not knocking being happy. I'm glad he's happy. And I'm especially glad for the kids on the team. I'm especially glad for Jay Patel. I'm happy. I'm a fan. I'm happy. I wanted to win this game. I want Greg to succeed. I want the season to turn around. I told you my recipe for it. This was step 1. You got to beat Purdue. But his emotion was pretty pronounced because it seems almost as if, because then he gets interviewed. And what struck me is when they say, could this be a turnaround? Last year, you rattled off a bunch of wins late in the season, turned the season around. Could this be a turnaround for this season? Could you start to win some games? And Greg didn't even say keep it to this week. What he said was, we got some guys leaving on crutches. We got to regroup and we got to put our best out there. And even when you do that, it depends what the other team brings to the fold. So we don't know. I mean, that didn't sound very confident. And I understand why. I mean, this is a Purdue team that hasn't been particularly good. Now, it was home. It was at homecoming. And they've put up numbers before. It's not like they have an absolutely anemic offense. But some of the things you saw should still give us pause. And, we got to go against an Illinois team and a Maryland team that are better than Purdue. Let's put it that way. We struggled and clawed and fought to beat Purdue, and I'm glad that we beat them. But it was a struggle. It was a real struggle. It was a clawing match. It was scrimping and it was chopping. And it was army crawling, and it was getting in the mud to beat Purdue. And is that going to be good enough against these other teams that are better than Purdue? I don't know. I just don't know. But what I told Steve on the RU review is, what is chop? And the commentator said this, and I'm not trying to be redundant or repeat the same mantra that a lot of people are probably tired of hearing over and over again, as we haven't enjoyed much of this season. But what does chop mean? Chop means, what does he say? You take the axe and you take a swing at that tree right in front of you. And there's a whole bunch of woods around you. And so that one swing, the next swing, and the next swing is not going to get you out of those woods, but you have to concentrate on it and swing it. And so the only thing this team could do was what it had in front of them was beat Purdue. And you couldn't talk about anything else down the road in this season. You couldn't talk about any other big picture items until you won and beat Purdue. So they did what they had to do with that chop. Now they have to get back and regroup and figure out how they're going to get 2 more wins. And losing in the Pinstripe Bowl, I don't think it'll be very fun or much worth it either. So you got to try to probably get 3. I saw Greg. He had his reading glasses on, and he had the iPad and the play ledger there. So clearly he was involved in the mechanics of the game, either calling plays or deeply involved in how the plays were getting in there. There were definite changes because you could see by the way he was in the sideline, he was more involved. That's for sure. And you expect that because something had to give. That being said, guys still out of position on defense. I'm convinced that it's not just, it's not raw physical skill or talent. I mean, guys are taking just bad angles. There was an angle where Brown takes off and runs, and Cam Miller's angle is just, I don't know how he could have taken that angle. And it's like some of that stuff you can coach, and some of that stuff that you see with the blown coverages, that's the call or that's the coaching, but it comes down to the coaching. Whether it's the playbook is too complicated, whether the guys haven't played enough together to be able to execute it, whether you're not paying attention enough to instruct them where to be in given situations. No matter what you do, it's not a physical on physical, like helmet on helmet, this guy just beat him. It's schematic. And I'm convinced of that in a lot of ways, with not everything, but a lot of things. And that's concerning, right? So Greg's like real emotion, and you hope that that's not because he's convinced, hey, we at least got 1 Big Ten win this year, because it feels good today. But if you finish the season just losing every game, it's not going to feel too good anymore. You're not going to care much. So this team has to once again regroup with another 2 big injuries, as far as I'm concerned. And they have to, after those, an injury to the offensive line that already gave up 5 sacks today. You got to figure out how you can get better in your pass protection. You hope Ian Strong gets back. I mean, he was dressed. Greg said it killed him not to play. You think Ian's probably going to come back, even if he's not 100% for the next game. But you've got to you've got to find a way to be even better than you were today if you expect to put other things together. You know how I said you could save the season. You could beat Maryland, and then you could beat Penn State, who's going to be limping into the last game most likely as far as desire and emotion, as far as I can tell right now, and get to a bowl game and win that bowl game. Right now, that seems miles away. But you're in a position where it's still possible. And that gives us hope, and that gives us something to cheer for, and that gives us something to look forward to. And really, what else can you ask for, right? All you could do was chop that tree today, and we did that. We took care of Purdue today. Not pretty all the time, not always what you want to see, but some of the things we've been hoping for so much. Defense stepping up, having a big play, an X factor type play, getting a turnover. Jay Patel connecting with the pressure on. Ethan Kaliakmanis connecting with his talented receivers. Our running backs who we knew we had talent, like those skill players on offense that we knew were the heart and soul of this team, the X factor that we had, the best thing we had, the best club in our bag was the skill players on offense. And they step up today in a big way. That's heartening. That's nice to see. And so Rutgers moves to 4-4, get their first in-conference win. Role players, from guys from Montreal, guys out here making a difference, chopping the moment, as he says, getting that victory we needed. It doesn't get us out of the woods. We're still deep in those woods. But you got a chance to pick up the axe and chop it again. And all those conversations we want to have about what's wrong and what we need to do, we still got to have those conversations. Those conversations are coming. And I'm sure I'll be talking to David Anderson and TKR and Steve and all these guys. We're going to be talking about these things in the offseason. But the season's not over yet because you got 4 wins. You're 2 away from bowl eligibility, even if you got to fight and scrape and limp your way there. First tree chopped down. We move on. Larry K and Night Watch will be with you. Make sure you talk to all the other, or check out all the other content creators. There's a lot of Rutgers stuff going on in the community, a lot of good stuff going on in the community, a lot of collaboration. And it's a good time, to just delve into the content, whether the team is great or not. But on a victory weekend, what better time to do it? Click that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you click it and then listen. We have this same show up as an audio podcast on every major platform. So go to your favorite podcast platform or Google or whatever it is, search Night Watch Larry K, and you can find us as an audio show. If you're listening on the audio shows, come on over to YouTube, click subscribe, and click join. Become a member, which is a small way of sponsoring and supporting the channel. We'll be with you to preview the rest of the season, the next game, and we'll be locked in to all the other platforms out there who will be discussing and dissecting this as the week goes on. All these guys do a great job. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Saturday on a finally a Big Ten victory Saturday, much needed by the Scarlet Knights. And I'm going to get ready to see you guys next time. So Larry K is out. Go RU.